I wanted to cover something practical, and I know that we do have some new users here. I don't know what everyone's trade level of trade knowledge is here, so this is going to be a little bit more of a beginner thing here, but it's things to know. I want to teach you about things to know before investing in stocks. And Benzinga Pro can help you with some of this. It's helped me. I'm sure it can help you. So couple of things here. We're going to start from the blank workspace screen. And we want to add a couple of things here because we want to figure out information. We want to know things. So we definitely want to use the details tool. But the details tool pairs with a lot of the other tools. So you can use a scanner, you can use a news feed, you can use a calendar, whatever it is that you want. So for the example here, I'm going to click news feed because news is the heart of Benzinga. And then I'm going to click details. Okay, so just those two tools, the first two tools here, and then I'm going to hit create workspace. What this is going to do, this is going to plop a news feed and a details tool here on the workspace. So if I want to select any stock from this list here, I'll go ahead and click Amazon, ticker AMZN. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you have a news feed, a calendar, a scanner, or any other tool. For the example here, we use news feed. Now we want to figure out some things that to know prior to trading here. Okay, so number one, we did have a newsprint here. Jim Lebenthal bought more Amazon. All right, so this is one of CNBC's traders here. The newsprint here is that he bought more. Okay, I can see why he bought more. Amazon's a quality stock. Market's really been outperforming. Today, though, Amazon's showing some weakness, down 3.25% here, just about. So that's the days that I'd like to be buying stock. I want to buy the stock when it's lower and then sell it when it's higher. Very, very simple premise. But we're actually going to dive in a little bit more, and I'm actually going to resize this just for the sake of eyes, because we're going to predominantly use the details tool here. So, okay, you have a stock that you want to trade, but what are some things to know before investing in that stock? Let me show you how Benzinga Pro can help you with that. So obviously right here at the top of the overview page, it gives you the name of the company and what it's doing here today, obviously, as well as the price. If you want to see the next thing beneath it, there's a bunch of other there's a bunch of tabs here that we're going to get to in a sec, but I want to start with what you see here on the screen. The first thing that you see here is this chart. So I'm going to go ahead and click on YTD shortcut. Here is your year-to-date chart for Amazon. Okay, looks like pretty much any stock chart. If you don't like the shaded area there and you prefer candlestick, I just click on the candlestick icon here, and we can change them to candlesticks. All right, so you can do a kind of a chart at a glance here. You can get all types of information like key data here, like its float or its short float. Now with a stock like Amazon, this is a gigantic stock, so it's going to have a bigger float. But if you're trading micro cap names and you want to know what the float is, here it is going to be in the key data bucket of overview. Really important to know before you invest in the stock. Float is going to determine how thinly that stock trades. So it can have extreme price movements on low volume. If the stock has a higher float, it's going to be very, very difficult to move that with small orders. So you definitely want to know the share structure of the instrument that you're trading prior to investing in it. How quickly is the float data updated? That's a great question. Float data is pulled every morning. Every morning that we get data from our provider, float is on the list. Now, float can be a notoriously difficult data point to pin down, meaning some sources are going to have different varying float datas. That's just kind of the nature of that piece of data, but really good question there on the update period. Now, the next here, let's just kind of familiarize ourselves with the company itself. You'll notice right beneath that is analyst trends. It's actually a pretty good gauge here, right? The grade rating here is 85.2. That's pretty good. We're going to actually check out analyst ratings here in a sec in more depth, which I also think that you should know before investing in a stock. You can come down here to the company and industry bucket. This is going to tell you things like its enterprise value, its market cap, how much debt it has, if there's a dividend, et cetera. And it can compare them to the industry average. Does the same thing here with key ratios. There's some earnings information here at a glance. There's a lot of stuff here at a glance, and you can go into this more within the details tool. That's what we're going to show you. It also has a news feed right here, just to the left of those buckets we were just looking at. And this news feed is automatically filtered for this stock. So you'll notice here, all of the news pertains to Amazon, even in the case where there's a news feed or a news item here that has a ticker Apple. If you mouse over it, you'll notice that it says Apple +3. So this piece of news applies to Apple and 3 other stocks. And lo and behold, one of them is Amazon. Meta and Microsoft are the other 2. So your news feed here is automatically filtered for the stock that you have in focus. And of course, if you were to type in a different stock or change this to something like Goldman Sachs, your news feed would be filtered for Goldman Sachs. But let's go back to Amazon just for the sake of the example. Okay. So you can familiarize yourself with all of the recent news. You can infinitely scroll here if you want. It will keep going, and you can see what was there any recent news that might be moving this. Like, for example, here its price target got raised by UBS. That definitely should have a positive effect on it. And you can review as much news here as you want. But there's other things that you can review that you should know before investing in a stock. We talked a little bit about the analyst ratings. Let's dive in there. So first of all, for analyst trends here, you'll notice that there's more. And if you click on more, it automatically takes you to the calendar tab and the analyst ratings sub tab. Now, I want to show you how to access that without clicking this little shortcut, but I did want to demonstrate that that shortcut is there. You have these tabs right above the graph and right beneath the price. In this case, there's actually an announcement here. Amazon is going to report earnings today after market. That is extremely important to know. If you're going to invest in this stock, there's a binary event later today that is likely going to change the price of this stock significantly. So, for example, if you were thinking about taking a new trade here, but you're not sure if Amazon is going to report really, really well for earnings here, maybe waiting till tomorrow for this trade to see how it goes might be your thing. If you want to accept the risk of that binary event tonight, then you know you need to get your trade placed by the end of the day here today before those earnings are released. But let's look through some more of the information here and see if we can come up with an educated decision. All right, so I'm going to click on calendar, and then I'm going to click on the analyst rating sub tab. I could also look at earnings, which we're going to do here in a sec, but let's start with analyst ratings. Okay, you can see here, let's go ahead and sort it by date. So I have the most recent analyst ratings at the top, and you can see, boy, oh boy, 2024 has been a pretty good year for Amazon. There's a lot of green here in the rating. That is going to include things like buy, overweight, outperform, market outperform. Pretty much all of those good ratings here are going to be highlighted in green. Neutral ratings are not highlighted, like sector outperform, equal weight. Those are not going to be highlighted. And then negative ones are going to be highlighted in red. So for example, right here, this was Wells Fargo downgraded Amazon on October 7th and lowered the price target here to 183. You can also really quick, anytime you're looking at anything that's like this, in like a table format, if you right click and you do fit all columns, it will automatically kind of crunch that together so that you can see all of that. You don't need to individually adjust all of these columns at the top, although you can. You absolutely can. You don't need to. There's easy shortcuts to do that. But this might be something that you want to take a look at, in particular, the price targets. So remember, analyst ratings are price targets where they think the stock price can go within the next 12 to 18 months. So right away, we've encountered another variable there. We're going to look at the professional analysts here to see what they think in terms of where the stock price can go. But remember, we just talked about a time frame. So this leads me to another thing that you need to know before investing in stocks. What is your time horizon for your investment? Meaning, if you buy this stock here today, how long do you feel comfortable having that money tied up for? If it's short, then you might have to, meaning if it's a short time frame, like a month, you might have to adjust some of your expectations. If you're willing to hold this for the long haul, that could mean a number, or that could really affect your trade, right? If the price target here is vastly above the current price, it might take some time to get there, and that might change how long you want to think about your time horizon there. So another thing you want to know before investing in stocks is your time horizon. We can get a pretty good idea of where the professionals think this stock is going to go simply by eyeballing this. Looks like a lot of these are 210, 215, 220, all the way up to 260 is the, excuse me, 265 is the highest one that I see in here. Stock price is 186. So, okay, let's take a range there. Let's call 265 the top end of that range, and let's call maybe 220 the bottom end of that range. So we're pretty much looking between 220 or maybe 225 and 260, that $40 range, based on what the analysts are saying here. One more thing to take in mind here. We do have two ratings here for analyst ratings. So SMART score and overall success rate will kind of give you an idea of how successful that individual analyst is or what you can expect out of that rating. We shouldn't just listen to analysts, though. Analysts can be wrong, just like anyone in the market. We want to get as much data as we can. So we started with analyst ratings here. The next thing we might want to do is check out earnings. Okay, well, their next earnings is confirmed for today. I'm going to do the same thing to fit all columns here. You can see the last time that they reported earnings, they actually had a pretty decent, this is what, surprise EPS. So it looks like they surprised on their EPS number to the upside by 22% here. They reported an EPS of 126 per share. Versus an estimate of 103. Definitely positive here. Looks like the revenue surprise was a little bit of a miss here. They reported revenue of 147, almost 148 billion. The estimate was for 148.5 billion. So a little bit of a miss there. And you can actually see the history of these earnings here. So if you want to see, the one tonight is for Q3. How did they do last year on Q3? We'll look at that Q3 report. They had a 62% EPS beat, and they beat revenue by 1%. So it looks like their Q3 last year was a pretty good quarter. So now you have a little bit of seasonality data as well as some of your price targets from the analysts. Does the stock pay a dividend? Well, if we click on the dividend calendar here, no results found. So stock doesn't pay a dividend. As far as knowing this before you invest in it, you definitely want to know if the stock pays a dividend, because again, this might affect your time horizon part of your equation. If the stock pays you to hold on to it, maybe a longer type of trade makes sense for you, as you can get paid along the way. In the case of Amazon here, it does not pay a dividend. Okay. Honorable mention to a couple of other things in here. There's a guidance calendar very similar to the earnings calendar. It just will give you its guidance. And then also conference calls. So if you want to go back and listen to historical conference calls, you can do that. The links are just right here in Pro for you. All right. So now we've done that. We've figured out some price targets based on what the analysts think, the professional analysts. We've reviewed some of the history of earnings. Okay. Next here is going to be, let's take a look at the chart. All right, so here's our daily chart. I'm going to go ahead and do some marking off on this chart. I'm basically going to take some of the drawing tools that are here, and I'm going to draw some of these levels. So we talked about 220. I'm just going to draw a line there, and we also talked about 260. Okay, so this is the range that we really want the stock price to get into for our trade. We've outlined that here on the chart. But the next thing that we want to do is we want, again, this is kind of about things that you need to know before investing. One of the other things you need to know is your risk parameters. Your risk parameters are going to be different from every other trader out there. So how much are you willing to lose on this? Well, there's another helpful tool in here in Benzinga Pro. So if we use one of the other drawing tools, in this case, we're going to select the long position. And we're going to click right where the price is today. In our hypothetical example, we bought the stock right here. And now this tool can help us determine what an acceptable risk to reward is. So again, we already marked off some of the lines that we have there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top end here and I'm going to maybe cut that in half. I'm not going to be too greedy and go for the 260 level, but I definitely would like to see it get above 220. So I'm going to settle here at 240. And then I'm going to adjust my downside here. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look and see, where has Amazon been recently? So it's kind of traded sideways here. It looks like we've got a $10, $20 range here for most of this year. Okay, I would say, at least for me on this chart here, this 170 area, that looks to be about the most amount of downside that I want to accept. So I'm going to just draw that box here. And now I have a hypothetical trade planned out here. I've got a risk to reward ratio of 3.17. So 3 times the amount of potential reward versus what I'm willing to risk to the downside. Again, there's no right or wrong parameter here. You're the person that determines if something is right or wrong. You're also going to be the one to determine what your position size is for this. So just to kind of recap here, we want to know recent news for the stock. We want to know if the stock has any events coming up, like a conference or an earnings print, as we've identified here from Benzinga Pro. We would definitely like to know what analysts think about this stock, because that might help us come up with a trade plan on a potential exit price on this. Then we want to review the chart. Now, all I did here was I drew some lines for some target areas, and then I've used a long position to kind of determine risk or reward. But there's almost an unlimited amount of things that you can do on the chart here. If you use a Fibonacci-based system, that might help you give some of the levels. And some of those Fibonacci tools are available here as well, like the Fibonacci retracement or the trend-based Fibonacci extension. There's a Fibonacci channel drawing here. There's the speed resistance span that I like to see floating around on X there. So there's a bunch of other drawing tools here. You can do any type of technical analysis you want, whether you use moving averages, exponential moving averages, VWAP, volume profile, whatever it is that you're either researching or using in your system, you can apply that to the chart here. No wrong answers. It's whatever works for you. So now that we kind of have this figured out, there might be some other information in here that we want to know. Like, for example, does Amazon have a high short interest? Is this a potential to be a short squeeze? Well, if I click on the short interest tab of details, remember, we've already looked at overview, calendar, and chart. Now we're looking at short interest. Here we go. I can see that the current short interest is negligible. It's not even 1%. 0.9% of the float shorted, 2.78 days to cover. That means for all of the shares held short, based on average volume, it would just take 2 days to cover this short. This really doesn't seem like this is a squeeze potential. So if you have watched what GameStop has done in the past, or Koss or Chewy or AMC, or some of those stocks that really kind of moved on short interest, here's a one-stop shop to check it right here in Benzinga Pro. Know the short interest of your stock. Also, one of the things that we've seen is that people in the government, they seem to win a lot on their trades. So maybe you want to know who in the government owns this stock. Well, there's a tab for that too. Go ahead and click on government trades. You can see when someone sold or purchased. You can see who it is. You can see how much it was, when the transaction date was. So you can also figure out if people in government own the stock that you're trying to trade. You can also get an idea of what's happening with some of the insiders there. So if we click on the insider tab, you can see here at the end of, or at the beginning of September, the end of September, and the beginning of October, we had a couple of C-suite executives selling here. We had the CEO from the worldwide division, the senior vice president. You also see that Jeff Bezos, if we look down the list here, Jeff Bezos was selling back when the stock was 200. Right? Looks like there were multiple sales here. Sold $33 million worth of stock here. 4 million shares, 2 million shares, 400,000 shares. Bezos did a lot of selling, and that selling was concentrated around 200. What does that mean? Well, we definitely want to know that, because if we go back to our chart here, we can anticipate that if the stock gets up to $200, yes, we would be in the green in our trade, but there might be some resistance here. Here is the date when Jeff Bezos was selling. You can see the stock price pretty much ran into a wall here on Amazon. You really want to know that stuff before you get into your trade, because if this is working for you, or if this is maybe taking a little bit more time than you anticipated, maybe selling some of your position a little bit early is going to be more palatable for your risk profile and your trade plan. So all of this information can be really helpful for you to know before you invest in a stock. But there's one more thing that I want to show you here before we end it. Oh man, I timed this almost perfectly. That is glorious. There's one more thing here. I've noticed that in my own trading, as well as the people that I end up trading with, they always want more information. They always want to know, what is your opinion of this stock? What do you think of this stock? Not just the analysts, but people in their trading circles, or whoever it is. We have more information that I want to show you. If you click back on the overview tab, and you scroll down to the bottom of the overview tab, right above the company blurb, where it tells you what the company does, and a lot of the times has a link to the company's webpage, so you can do some more investigation. We actually have a bull say and a bear say. And what this is aggregating information that's out there, whether it's analysts, other trades, or just things from its filings or from its financial reports. And it'll give you a real quick bull case and a real quick bear case. I'm going to say one of the things that you should know before you take your trade is you should know both sides of the trade. Okay. So if we just discussed taking a hypothetical long trade. We looked at analyst ratings, we looked at price targets, we looked at the news, we looked at some of this other information about Amazon to figure that we're going to take a long trade here. So we definitely want to know what the bullish case for Amazon is. But the other thing that we want to know what the bears say about Amazon. We want to know what people are looking for Amazon to go down, because while you're in this trade, since you have access to a real-time news wire, you want to be able to stay on top of that here. All right. So I kind of just showed you Jeff Bezos selling some of his stock at $200. That might be something that you want to know. We just uncovered that by using Benzinga Pro. Read through the bear case here, see if there's anything like this. Says, moreover, risk factors such as liquidity concerns, heightened sensitivity to economic cycles, and customer concentration contribute to greater volatility. Well, okay, so if you continue to hear news that the economic conditions are weakening, that would be a net negative for Amazon. Right? So kind of go through those cases. There is a wealth of information being provided to you here in Benzinga Pro. Use that. Use that information to make smarter trades. Know all of these different data points before you invest in a stock, whether it's news, price, possible range, short interest, analyst ratings, earnings history, guidance history. I mean, the list goes on, financials, all of that. So all of that information is here for you and put in a way that is easy to consume. Study up on those stocks before you make those trades, and hopefully you will make better and smarter trades.